how the son betrayed his father at this deepest level. They did it. There was a person that spent 15 years going around the East, like in India, in Turkey, and places like that, Morocco, and they asked, could this kind of question ever be questioned? Or has this request ever been made? It says never. Could it ever happen? Impossible. What if you made this kind of request from your father? He'd beat you up. That's what he'd do. He'd beat you up. That's what a father would do. It would be so ruthless and so cutthroat. So this is the dynamics of what's going on when he said, give me my share of the inheritance. So the father, Jesus says, gives this, goes ahead and gives him that inheritance. And as he leaves the father and he leaves home, he leaves the hands of the blessing of the father. He thinks that it's going to be somewhere out there. The blessing is not out there. The blessing is in here. Jesus is with us. And we're at home when we have Jesus with us. It's not to be found even in another relationship, although that can be part of it, but that's not part of it. It's right in here, internally and eternally. And we see the son that goes out and wastes the money in debauchery and prostitution and thinking that he can satisfy his needs through just pleasure on the physical level. And we see what that does. We see how the world exploits him. The world will always exploit you. The world will always crush you. The world will always take you apart because that's Satan's realm and that's what he wants to do. And so the son is living this life. He's left home. He's left the father's hands of blessing. And he comes home and we see him, and it's good to spend time with this picture. And we see him before the father kneeling in humility. And his head is shaven. That means he has no individuality. His head is shaven. No individuality. He's lost that. And that's what happens when we do not follow God. We become on the level as of a mammal. No individuality, just living on the physical level. And then he's got a number in his head. He's a prisoner. Prisoners have numbers on their heads then, in those days. And so he's a prisoner. He's a slave to sin. And that's what sin always does. It does not set us free. It does not give us joy. It imprisons us. And then he has no cloak to cover him. He's naked. There's no protection. He just has a dirty undergarment. The shame of life. One thing that he does have is he kneels before his father. He has a sword. And that's a sign of his nobility. That there was at least a flicker of an ounce that he knew of the father's love and the father's home. And so perhaps that's what gave him enough courage to come home and to lie to his father. Because the reason he came home was he was hungry. He didn't really care about repenting. He wanted to fill his stomach with more than what they were feeding the pigs. And that's the tension that's left in the story. We don't really know what happens with the son. We don't really know if he's converted. He comes home, and the father throws a party for him, but does he internalize that? Does he know what God is doing for him? But the son does come to his senses, at least on the physical level, right? He comes to his senses, and he says, I want better food, so I'm going to come home. But we don't know if he comes to his senses on a spiritual level. If we look at this picture, it is the gospel. It's all of the gospel. It's all of my life. It's all of every beloved sinner's life. This is the gospel in a picture. So what God calls us to do, as about 300 people did earlier today in our communal reconciliation service to get right with him, is just to fall to our knees before him and to surrender our lives to him and to be embraced by him. Because his embrace is always there. He's waiting. And in that embrace, we'll experience that running of God to us, to embrace us. Be still. Fall to your knees. Let the Father embrace you. Let him embrace you. Every word he speaks to you is of life and love. Have you ever fallen to your knees and let your Father embrace you and speak to you just to be still? Say that I love you. Isn't that quite a different picture than a father who beat up his son because he just asked him to be dead because he could care less about him? Father's still there. How could he respond like that? Because he's God. That's the way he responds to his children who have left home and thought they could find something out there when it's always been with us. It's with us. I hope that you can just fall down on your knees and come back to him. Let your Father be your Father. Oh, how much we need a Father. It's not going to beat us up, but they're just going to embrace us. Heaven's unending goodness. Heaven's unending goodness. Do you believe? Will you be still? Will you come here and spend time in silence to receive that? It's the gospel. It's my life. It's your life. It's all to kneel before the Father